Hello, salam, shalom, namaste, sat sri akal, aloha, hola, ciao, bonjour, buna, and privyet. It's really, really amazing to be with you, and I know you will be so happy you're with me today because we have a very special guest, and it's Kathrin Niesel. And Kathrin is a healer, coach, and mentor, and I'm actually going to ask her to jump right in and tell us more about who you are, Kathrin, and what do you do?
Thank you so much, Samia. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to spend this time with you. So I'm a spiritual healer, energy healer, and life coach, biz mentor. And what I do, I basically work with women who have this deep longing for inner peace and create and embody who they are from within and to express themselves fully. And that basically opens up the doors to abundance, which is like, I love my work so much. It's such a beautiful work.
Yes, oh my gosh, I love it. And you're definitely my kind of people because I don't know, but I think as long as I can remember, I've known this, my deepest need has been for inner peace. And
Mhm.
actually for that matter, outer peace as well, but like just peace in general. And it's driven
Yeah.
everything that I've done in my life.
That's really awesome that you say that because it took me quite some time to really understand that I was actually searching for inner peace.
Mm,
Instead, I spent a lot of time searching for external validation, external peace, I guess. But on this journey, I realized, which has been a desire through many different lifetimes of
mm,
mine, this inner peace, this deep connection to the divine.
yeah. Can you tell me a
Yeah.
little bit more about your journey and how you came to this realization that really the need, the want that you had was for peace?
Hmm. Well, I used to be an international trainer and coach in the business world, in the corporate world, and I would travel. So the between Germany, the US, LA, and Tokyo, Japan, and deliver my coachings and trainings there. And at the same time, in my private life, I was diving deep into spirituality. I'm a yogi, I'm a yoga teacher. I've been practicing yoga for 20 years. And I never expected it, but I embraced yoga and the spirituality full on. And at some point, being this international coach and trainer, which was an awesome job with an awesome company, I realized that I couldn't express myself fully, that there was this deep longing within me that just wasn't satisfied and fulfilled by what I've done or by what I was doing. And so I decided in my early 40s that it was time for me to quit my job. And in Germany, quitting a job where you have an unlimited contract, it's kind of like, wow, because I basically had that job for life. Um, it was quite a courageous move for, I guess, in general. Um, and then when I started my business, I guess I was very much kind of like intrigued by all these like online business coaches who promise you like the 5-figure, 6-figure, 7-figure month, year, I don't know, quarter. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds so amazing. I mean, I believed in what I had to offer. So I was like, I was successful in the corporate world. So why shouldn't I be successful, doing what I really want to do? And but it turned out very differently, because even though I had so much knowledge about, project management and time and task management, and I worked with so many business coaches, nothing worked out. And what I realized on that journey, that of course triggered a lot of fears within me, triggered a lot of doubts about myself, about my expertise, about my gifts and talents, I intuitively turned inwards. I would meditate more and more. I would seek refuge in nature a lot. I have a dog, so we would go on long walks, and I would just seek peace and answers inwards. And they came. They weren't what I expected. And that basically kind of started this journey of, because the answers I continuously would receive was trust and self-love. And I was sitting there thinking, I don't need self-love, I don't need trust. I want to have a strategy that brings me more clients. I was like, in the beginning, I was really confused, but it would be like over and over again, my guides would tell me self-love and trust. And at some point I was like, I can be very stubborn. So at some point I was like, okay, let's go with that one.
Mm,
And yeah, that's basically how it all started. And then on this self-healing journey towards more self-love, which I now like to call self-acceptance,
mm,
um, I eventually discovered that this deep longing I had felt inside of me, in my heart region, which was with me for so many years, I understood what I really was to accept myself fully and to reconnect with the divine.
mm,
Because I didn't grow up in a religious household, or with any kind of spirituality in my life. So, and gaining trust, that was like, I think, one of the hardest thing for me, because I didn't know what trust means, you
mm.
know. So that's basically what comes out of me right now, how to describe my journey. And through that journey, I also came across that I'm a manifestor in human design, and they are destined to self-doubt and on their way of expressing themselves. And that's why I am so passionate about especially helping these multi-passionate women, who have so much expertise and knowledge and experience, to, instead of shrinking themselves or cutting themselves down to fit into a niche, or like, no, girl, queen, you have to fully accept yourself, and then what is unique about you can shine fully, and this will help you to stand out. This is how you find your people, not by clarifying your message, but by clarifying yourself.
Ah, I love that. I love that. And
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for sharing that journey, Catherine. It's so, well, first of all, it resonates a lot with me in terms of there are many aspects of what you were sharing that was like, hey, that was like me. Of course, in other ways, my journey has been somewhat different from yours, but oh my gosh, like for example, the guidance of what you really need is more self-trust and more
Mhm.
self-love, and not even just self-trust. I was just like trust. I actually received that message as well when I was struggling with the business aspect of my coaching training practice. And I was like, what's going on? Why? isn't this working? I've been trying and doing everything right, doing everything that my coaches and mentors are telling me to do, and
Mhm.
it's still not working. What's going on?
Yeah.
And the mind just wanted to find the next strategy or the next software or the next this or that that would, help me set up the perfect systems for my business. But my inner guidance was always like, no, you need to trust more. You need to love yourself more and better. And it's like, but that is not a problem because I love myself. And how I already have such deep faith, trust, and that's how I was able to take this jump into starting this work in the first place, for example, you know. But it was like really shocking for me to realize that no, as much as I thought I loved myself,
Mhm.
it was so surface level. And as much as I thought I had trust in spirit and divine, oh, it was so surface level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Yeah. And it's really, I think, especially for us women who are guided to tap into our intuition, which we have been brainwashed for thousands and thousands of years to not to, and follow our inner guidance. But instead, we had to perform like men, tap into this masculine energy in this like doing and hustling and forward and keep on going and stuff. And I'm pretty sure you as well played that game very successfully for many years. And we succeeded. But then when we then choose to walk our own path, I think, and this is quite a challenge, I think, for many women, is we don't really know how to do this. We know how to perform. We know how to deliver. We know how to, live up to certain expectations, but we don't know how to be ourselves
mm,
oftentimes. And I
yeah.
think this is why when we have these highly intuitive, highly sensitive coaches, healers, or witches, who have these beautiful gifts, have these beautiful talents to share, and guide and help others, is from my perspective, one of the biggest challenges to overcome for us.
Yes. Can you tell me a little bit more about, because as I said, like my experience, for example, was that I thought I knew myself. I thought I trusted myself, but it turned out to be not false, but just, that I didn't realize how surface level it was and how much deeper there was to go. And, it's like I didn't know what I didn't know. And so,
Yeah.
can you share some guidance with us in terms of, well, like if somebody's struggling, for example, in their work, um, or life mission or whatever, and they're in a similar position where they think they have it down in terms of self-love, self-trust, but they're continuing to struggle. How do you even figure out that the trouble is this, rather than that you don't have some kind of right strategy or software or something like that? Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode. Hope you're getting value out of it. For your information, this episode has been sponsored by the Happiness 101 program. Are you a change maker, coach, trainer, or healer? Are chains of fear holding you back from making the impact and income you desire? using a unique combination of positive psychology and the spiritual wisdom of our most effective change makers. The Happiness 101 program helps you break through your limiting beliefs and manifest the abundance and success you desire with fun and ease. Interested? Book a free Happiness 101 exploration call with me, your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Just use my online calendar link in the show notes. Now, back to the show.
Well, I mean, one indication for sure is, and you've mentioned it already, and I experienced the same. You follow all the strategy. You do exactly how your business coach tells you, maybe even the second, third, or fourth business coach, and still the big bang doesn't happen. That is a very clear indication to eventually stop looking for strategies, but to turn inwards. Whether or not it's trusting yourself, for example, that can be a very easy example, and I actually practiced that for quite some time. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. You sit on your couch, reading a book, watching some TV, I don't know, whatever it is you do when you sit on your couch, and suddenly you realize you're thirsty. But instead of just getting up and get yourself something to drink, you're just like, oh no, I'm too lazy. This is a very great indication that you do not trust yourself because your body or your spirit or whatever, because water is very essential for the having a good flow of energy, indicates you, I need water, but instead we resist it. So this is a really great indication. Like if you feel like you're thirsty, but you're holding it back, if you feel like you have to go to the bathroom, but you're like, oh no, or whatever it is, when when you have like these clear indications that like, hey, I need this or I want that, but you hold it back, that can be a great indication. Another one, when it comes to self-acceptance, loving yourself unconditionally. I would like to answer this with a little example from my personal experience. So as mentioned, I'm a manifester 3/6. So, and the 3 in my design stands for that I have to experience everything myself. So instead of just following someone else's guidance or rules, I always like, wait a second, is that really true? And I have to, do my research and explore and experience, whether it's like training my dog or building a business or doing studies. Like all my life, I was always like, let me try out first this, and this, and then, I will have my final say whether or not I will follow your guidance. So what that meant was everything always took a little bit longer for me to come to the finishing line. I reached my finish line, but on this journey, I would always, instead of going in a straight line, I would always go like, like in circles or left, right, back, forth, And at some point, I realized that that really annoyed me about myself, you know? So I was like, everything always takes so forever for me, I really so I really dove into this and experienced like what are the emotions that come up when I think about this kind of behavioral pattern, which I also couldn't seem to stop, because that's just who I am. I need to experience everything myself. So and there's two things that you can do, or I recommend you do, is to look into what emotions does that cause. So for me, it was frustration because everything takes so long. It was disappointment in myself that I just cannot follow someone else's rules. I mean, on the other side, I'm quite happy about that. But then, like frustration, desperation, like, oh, will I ever make it? Like there were all these different kind of emotions within me, basically expressing I'm not good enough towards myself because of this habit I had. So the first point was to really acknowledge all these emotions and to release them. That is so important. If you wonder why you cannot manifest the life of your dreams, it's because there are still emotions vibrating within you. So you have to identify them, acknowledge them, and release them. That is very important. And the second part was to feel compassion and love this aspect of yours. So I sit down, and this is a exercise I borrowed from Abraham Hicks. I love Abraham Hicks. I'm a huge fan of his work or her work or whatever you want to call this. And this exercise is called the positive aspects. So I sat down and listed all the positive aspects of me always having to explore everything myself. And then I realized, wow, because of that, I have so much more knowledge. I have so much more expertise. I can help my clients on such a broad spectrum because of all this experience I've gathered throughout my life. And I suddenly switched my whole energy, to releasing the emotions, but also opening myself up for a new perspective, to like, ooh, I really like myself for that. I'm really proud of myself. That's so awesome. That's really exciting. And that is how I help my clients to fully embrace themselves and accept themselves, you know. So that was a bit of a long-winded answer, but I hope I was able to.
Yes, yes, I'm getting it. So basically, to look at wherever in your life you might feel a sense of being less than or not
Where
good
you judge
enough.
yourself.
Yes, where do you judge yourself? And and your emotions are the clue to that because ah, it's like sometimes we're so used to thinking in a certain way about ourselves or about some issue or about
Mhm.
something that we don't even realize,
Yeah.
the impact that that thinking is having on us in terms of, uh, I I've been sharing this example a lot recently myself because this was just earlier this year. I started working with a health and wellness coach who was mentoring me. And the reason that I started working with her was because I was actually just interviewing her for the for this podcast, as a matter of fact. And in the process of interviewing her, I realized that I had not even been realizing that I had been having judgmental thoughts
Mhm.
about my relationship with food and how I eat and when I eat and what I eat. And when I
Yeah.
realized that, it just, like, for me, I immediately knew that was a problem. My having judgmental thoughts
Yeah.
about my relationship with food is a problem and I need to
Yeah.
heal that. And so for me, it was a no-brainer because I realized that judgmental thinking is one of the,
It's
um,
what cuts you off from the divine right away.
yes, yes,
Because
exactly.
what judgment does is it basically,
Mm,
I mean, you basically judge the creator, God, universe, source, whatever you want to call it, for
yes.
its creation,
Mm,
you know? So, and I think that's why judgment is such a great guidance if you desire
ye-
to heal, if you desire to reconnect, if you
yes,
desire inner peace.
yes.
Whenever you judge, and judgment can show up as jealousy or envy or greed,
Mm,
whatever. Whenever you judge, take a
ye-
look. What is it? What is
yes,
it that you're judging? Why is it that what do you believe about this thing? What emotions come up? This is your guidance.
yes.
And
Oh,
And let me say, I'm sorry to
no,
interrupt,
no,
but
no, please.
and always be grateful, whether
Yes,
it's a person or a situation that triggers you. Like, thank you so much for your guidance
yes.
because you show me potential for growth. You
Mm,
show me how I can reconnect with the divine, find my inner peace. Without you, it would take me even so much longer.
mm, yes. Oh my gosh. And see, this brings us back to the trust issue because we were talking earlier about getting that message if you don't trust enough. And
Yeah.
it's like what you just said right now, for me, uh, you know, this is sort of like just, bringing all of that into perspective because when we're being judgmental and we're thinking, okay, this is bad, that's wrong, or even for that matter, I think one of the tricky parts about judgmental thinking is that, um, I mean, sometimes the judgments we are making are, oh, this is good. That's, uh, you know, it's not
Hmm.
always that we're judging something to be bad. Judgmental thinking goes both ways. Some
Hmm.
things we judge to be good, some things we judge to be bad.
Very good point. Yeah.
Um, but it's just if you focus on the negative judgments for a moment, that can really sort of be that indication of yes, you're lacking trust, not just this in yourself, but in the divine, as you said, because you're questioning, not only questioning, but you are thinking, you are actually in that negative judgment about whatever it is that you're negatively judging, that's saying, no, this is not a wise thing. This is not a good thing. And if you believe that, the divine brought all of this into being, whether we think it's good or bad, then you're really judging the divine,
Yeah.
as having done something
Absolutely.
unwise and bad. So, when that, that was really a mind-boggling and life-changing realization for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. And I also, because you've mentioned we can judge bad or good, in a positive way or in a negative way. But also when you think about it, judging something in a positive manner is
Mm,
still judging in
yeah,
terms of you basically have kind of like which is very human, kind of like a scale of like, oh, this is better and this is worse, light is better than dark.
yeah,
But in the end, everything just is. And when it,
yeah,
for example, comes to success or money, and that is something, entrepreneurs, of course, seek, or many people seek success and money
mm,
and fortune. When you judge money as something good, as something you desire, but you put it on a pedestal, you know, that also kind of implies that you seem yourself to be lower.
uh-huh,
So, whether it's a good judgment or a bad judgment, judgment is judgment. Just accept as it is.
yeah,
Appreciate what is. Because you are, the creator of your reality.
yeah,
And that's why it's so important to like that's why I believe the key is really in self-acceptance and full self-acceptance, because if you allow yourself to accept yourself fully, you can give this gift to everyone else
mm,
and everything else.
yes. So, I can just hear um, people who might be listening to us, I think, imaginary people, or my own self even, listening to you right now and being like, but what are you talking about, Catherine and Samia? There is good and there is bad. Like Hitler was bad. He did a really bad thing. And if I think so, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm right in that judgment and in that thinking. And how can I not think that Hitler is bad, for example? Like how what do you want me to do? How should I think about Hitler?
Yeah, as a German, I get this question a lot. Well, I mean, I'm not, I guess that's going to be a bit a philosophical discussion. And I get that point, and I do not want to um, justify anything of these kinds of action, whether it's Hitler, Stalin, or Mao Zedong, or anybody who chooses to torture or kill anyone. But from like a spiritual perspective, it's all about having an experience and
Mm,
choosing whether or not that experience serves you.
mm-hmm,
It's all about experience and whether or not this experience makes you feel good or
mm-hmm.
not. How does it make you feel? You know? And and I think this is that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about, by the way, I'm in agreement with you about, being guided by our feelings in terms of, well, does this make me feel good or not? Now, when we talk about this good feeling, do you distinguish between different kinds of good feelings in terms of being guided by them to go in a certain direction or not? Or is like good feeling just a good feeling and just follow the good feeling?
Hmm. I think this is a very powerful and important question because especially as long as the ego, which I think is a very important to understand the purpose of the ego and what it does if you don't know how to handle and tame it. But as long as our thinking is intertwined intensely with the ego, then our emotions can even be a bit hijacked, so to say. I, in general, I would say a good feeling is something that opens your heart, that allows you to relax and to experience peace, even if it's just for a few moments. Um, but then there are emotions, like, for example, let's get back to this, like money, because this is such an easy example.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially in the money manifestation world, they teach you imagine making the 10K, the 50K, whatever, and how would you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Um, But the thing is, I believe, is that especially when the desires we think we have are very much connected to material goods,
Mm,
they are very much driven from the ego mind.
right.
Because the ego is very much in the material, in the 3D.
Mm,
And if this desire triggers a lot of negative emotions, then yes, this is an opportunity for growth. But I'm not always sure that this is what you really deeply desire.
mm,
Because also, and this is, everything we desire is because of how we believe it makes us feel. And what we want to feel is we want to feel love, we want to feel peace, we want to feel joy, because this is who we are. We want to come home, so to say. And this is why we enjoy love or enjoy joy or empowerment so much, because it reminds of who we really are.
yeah.
Uh, and when you look at people who, have a lot of money and make more money and make more money, what happens at the same time is they suddenly get scared that someone else might take it away.
Mm-hmm.
And they build a fortress, and they have all these like things in place to make sure the money doesn't go away. So I don't know if this is the kind of like, and I'm not saying that money is bad or anything, but I would say first focus on your well-being, which
Mm,
makes you feel expansive, which makes you feel safe, which makes you feel at home, at peace, at ease. And for me, it opens up my heart field.
Yes. Ah,
And then everything else follows anyways.
yeah. 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 It's it's just really amazing how, when we look at things from a spiritual perspective, it just um it's just a very different perspective to hold and have, and it you know and I think that's the thing to understand, is that, like, for people who are not perhaps in tune with the spiritual perspective, um it can maybe because they haven't really had that opportunity to really understand and feel it and live into it um, deeply, it can feel like a crazy thing. I mean, if you think about the great spiritual healers, or guides or prophets that we have, um, you know, they didn't act like normal people. They didn't act like normal people, and yet we admire them. Uh, we recognize the amazing successes that they've achieved in terms of creating huge positive impact on people and in the world, and um, we aspire to be like them, uh, to whatever extent we have that aspiration. Um, and I think the disconnect happens where we would love to see the results that they're able to produce, but we're not willing to think as they thought, and we're not always willing to act as they acted, um, in terms of, acting from this place of unconditional love and self-acceptance and so on and so forth. Um, it's like, and so so you have to just, I guess, make a choice at some
Mhm.
point. It's like if you want to manifest the kind of results, for example, that Jesus did, or the Buddha did, or whoever your hero happens to be, then you also have to be willing to think like them and act like them, like when they, I mean, like if I'm thinking about Jesus right now and the amazing levels of forgiveness that he practiced, you know, and most of us, like, theoretically, we're on board with the idea, but when it comes to us, are we actually willing to do that? And a
Mhm.
lot of times, that's where I was finding myself falling short, that I'd be like, no, this person hurt me
Mhm.
and I'm right and they're wrong. And
Mhm.
and then, not being willing to let that thinking go. Uh, even though
Yeah.
theoretically I love and admire and aspire to be more Jesus-like.
Well, I think this is exactly what I've mentioned earlier, is like if you don't really understand what the ego is for and what it does and how it behaves,
Yeah.
then it becomes quite challenging, I would say, for sure.
Mm.
And I think the very first, and not to underestimate, step you have to take, each one of us, if this is something you desire, is a decision,
Yeah.
is decide.
Mm.
And I mean, I remember for many, many, many years, long before I chose to start my own business, I oftentimes had this deep feeling of like, "Ah, I would love to be a nun or a monk or something and just like live in peace and quiet. And so for me, it was really like every day I would make this decision and still do take this decision that inner peace is what I desire the most.
Mm.
Like not doubting myself, not doubting the situation, not doubting my safety, not doubting whatever it is, but to deeply trust and know that this is the path I'm meant to walk in this reincarnation.
Mm.
And because the society, whether it's Western society or Eastern society, doesn't matter, I think, is we have been taught that this is not how you succeed, that this is not how you will get there, you know. It's very contradictory to what we have been taught from very early on. And this what makes it so hard to go this way. But if, the teachings of, let's stick with Jesus, wouldn't have been censored the way they have been, and we would have been, taught the truth, what he was teaching, then maybe society would look differently and would be completely like how could you possibly judge, like how could you not want to rest, how could you not want to meditate, how, like, of course this is what you want to do, but that would also ultimately lead us to the true power within us, to the creative force all of us have.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, something not everybody wants you to know. So,
Yes. Because it makes me think about the example you were giving earlier about how sometimes we just put things or people or ideas on a pedestal, and then by default that makes us feel less than. And so we look at someone like Jesus, and I know this was my orientation as well growing up, where I looked at the figure of what I knew of someone like Jesus, and I put him on a pedestal.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
at one
again, there's
moment,
this positive judgment.
right, right, and it's like, Jesus was awesome, Jesus was amazing, Jesus did all these amazing things. And at one level, there's a part of me that aspires to be like him, but another part of me feels less than and not worthy and not
Mhm.
enough, not good enough. And and that judgment actually makes me think, oh no, I cannot actually do what Jesus did. Like I cannot heal a leper or cure the blind or walk on water or any of that because I'm not Jesus. I'm not as good as Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I keep putting myself down and 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 so then I'm not, I mean, and as long as I'm doing
And
that, how can I
and
even
you're all
realize my power?
and also you kind of like take away the opportunity for really wholeheartedly try even, because
Yes,
it's so unbelievable that you could be
yes,
as Jesus was, even though he kept
yes,
saying that I'm not different from you. What I can do, you can do.
yes,
And this is exactly
yes.
why, if I might cut a corner here, so to say, this is why I love frequency healing so much.
Mm,
I'm a trained hypnotist. I'm trained in RTT hypnotherapy. I am a Reiki healer. I know a lot about how the mindset works. I help I love EFT. There are so many amazing techniques out there to help you release and heal. But as long as you, and again, don't know what the ego is supposed to do, how the ego works, there will always be this little bit or maybe even more of self-doubt,
yeah.
of questioning yourself. And this is where the frequency healing, which I do and which I also teach in my upcoming spiritual healing trance training, is so powerful, because the frequency, when you connect So what I do basically is I connect with the frequency of unconditional love of the divine, with the frequency of abundance, of fulfillment. And when you are connected with this frequency and you choose to reconnect with this frequency over and over again, then this is what basically silences the ego in the long term, because the ego will always try to keep you convinced that you are alone, that you are separated.
Yes.
But being connected through these frequencies with the divine will give signal to all of your cells: I am not. The Father, the Creator, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is within me. I am part of this. The kingdom, the paradise, Eden, whatever you call it, is within me.
Yeah.
And this is why frequency healing, for example, is so powerful.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Ah, Kathrin, I could keep talking with you forever.
I was just thinking, wow, we nearly already talked for an hour.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's not been quite an hour, but we should probably start wrapping up for today.
Yes.
Do you have any last thoughts that you would like to share for now?
Well, what comes up for me is, if you have been listening to this podcast, first of all, I appreciate you. And second of all, if you also have this longing for inner peace
Mhm.
and just trusting trusting yourself fully, that this is available to you. Keep on your path. Keep choosing you. And if you desire support and guidance, please reach out to me.
Yes. Oh, I love that idea of keep choosing you.
Yeah,
Keep
keep
choosing.
allowing, keep
Yeah.
choosing you, keep allowing this
Yes.
transformation to happen.
Oh my gosh. I think we could do like a whole other episode on this idea of allowing.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Catherine, you'll probably need to come back and share more of your amazing, amazing wisdom with us. And I will look forward to that. And in the
Me too. I would
meantime,
love that. Allowing is so
oh,
powerful.
right. Oh my gosh. So until we connect next time, I just want to
Yes.
remind all of you, our listeners, to make sure you check the show notes, because we'll be dropping Catherine's links in there so you can reach out to her, connect with her. I'll also drop my links in there. And yeah, other than that, I just wish you lots and lots of peace and joy.
Thank you. Likewise. Have a lovely, I guess, day, and talk to you soon. And thank you so much for this lovely talk.